Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Civil Point podcast. We are back. It's a new year. We are on episode 37, and we get to continue talking about the same idiotic insanity that is plaguing not only just our government, but our social communities as Americans, and that is this Trump regime. It's not an administration, it's an attempted coup and regime for the American public to abide by an oligarch, by an autocrat, by a dictator. And we are going to get into it because it is now, 18 days into the new year, and just everything that has gone on within the first year of Trump's second term into just the first 18 days, barely 2 weeks of Trump's presidency of this new year, it is just insane. So we're going to get into it, including ICE. We're going to talk about Jasmine Crockett. We're going to talk just about everything that's going on and how cumbersome and overwhelming it can be to continue hearing the news every day. But the only way to combat it is to continue talking about it. So let's go ahead and get into it today. So before I start here, I just want to pull this up. I wanted to talk about ICE's hiring practices that were put on full blast and display as incompetence. I mean, we all knew that ICE, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, this entire administration is filled with incompetent individuals. But what happened to Renee Good is shining the brightest light on how incompetent this administration is. So today we're going to go ahead and dive into the topic of Renee Good. Rest in peace, an American citizen who was murdered in cold blood, mercifully in daylight, broad daylight. And we're going to talk about how this just affects the trajectory of what this administration can do if, what's his name? Jonathan Good is his name, who shot, yes, Jonathan Ross, who shot Renee Good. We're going to talk about how, if he's not held accountable, what standard and precedent this sets for this administration. So let's go ahead and get into this all today. So I wanted to pull up first ICE hiring practices. So Laura Jadid, who is a journalist, decided to basically go undercover and say, I want to try and apply for ICE and see what's going on at their recruitment centers. And she did. She did exactly that. And she exposed what is truly going on in America, what is truly going on in our governmental agencies, and how incompetent these agencies are in their hiring practices, to the point where they truly have no care in the world. They just want bodies to inflict pain on American citizens. So Laura Jadid is an American journalist, and she went ahead and applied for ICE and went to one of their recruitment centers. And she received a final offer letter from DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, for an ICE position to go out and monitor and target American citizens. And the funny thing is that this was all just an experiment for her. She wanted to see what the commotion and the fuss was about, and see how easy it was to truly get into the eyes and holding guns to American citizens' faces. And she exposed it as being complete incompetence. So, after not filling out the paperwork, sorry, my watch is, I should probably put this on do not disturb so I don't get disturbed. Hold up. Sorry. But she completely exposed the incompetence of this agency that is led by Kristi Noem. So she received a final job offer from DHS after not even filling out all of the paperwork that is required for a DHS job opportunity, especially to patrol the streets and impound and intake and get citizens off of the streets. So she didn't submit specific important documentation such as domestic violence affidavits, medical information, and drug tests that weren't even flagged. So imagine going to a job, and a very important job, a government job, a job where you are dealing with American citizens and you are interacting with them. And I'm pretty sure I would want to know, as the head of Homeland Security and ICE, I would want to know who I'm sending out in these streets. But obviously, the Department of Homeland Security doesn't care. They just want bodies that want to inflict terrorism on American citizens. So the fact that these important and crucial paperwork and documents weren't filled out, weren't submitted, and she still got the actual job to go ahead and be a part of ICE facilitating and manning the streets and snatching people up. I mean, is it really surprising? I feel like it's not even truly surprising. So it is what it is. But honestly, when we talk about what is going on here, it's the fact also that Renee Good, she was killed, murdered in cold blood, right? Not only was she murdered in cold blood, but Jonathan Ross sat up here and called her an effing B word. Okay? I'm trying not to curse. That's one of my New Year's resolutions. Less cursing. But called her an effing B. And I have the video here, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at it. Okay, so here we go. Where's the video? Here we go. Let's go ahead and get into this. Before we continue, you can see she's clearly trying to de-escalate the already volatile situation, okay? And I feel that Renee's murder happened because this man felt insecure and emasculated by Renee Good's wife, okay? That's my opinion.
Show your face! I'm not mad at you. That's okay, we don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen. You want to come at us? You want to come at us?
And now you see him, he changes his hands, because if he was not premeditatedly ready to grab his gun and shoot her, he wouldn't have changed one hand to the other for his phone.
I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
Whoa! Effing bitch. So as you can see in this video, he premeditated, switched his phone from one hand to the other because he knew he was going to grab his gun and he knew he was going to shoot that gun. And I honestly don't think, obviously we know these officers don't have proper training, right? And because these officers don't have proper training, he shot 3 shots into the car of Renee Good and shot her in her head, point blank, broad daylight murder from someone who is supposed to be protecting our streets. Renee Good was not a threat to Jonathan Ross. Renee Good was evading and trying to move herself away from the situation, and he decided that on that day, he wanted to kill a mother, an American citizen. And what is scary about this is that right now, what is scary about this is that right now is such a pivot. I keep saying this. We are in such a pivotal time in American history where every decision that is made to hold someone accountable could be the dire point of if we move another step to a dictatorship, a panopticon where we have no control over our own lives and we are surveilled, or a step to actually freedom and removing ourselves from this complete normalization of insanity that this administration continues to try and push forward. So when we talk about this, Renee Good's murder, because that's what it was a murder, you also have the fact that DHS an administrative agency in the United States continues to lie. Now, we already know incompetence. We already know these people lie. But what happened the day of Renee Good's murder, where Kristi Noem got on live TV, streamed nationally, and lied, completely lied, and fabricated an entire story about what happened with that interaction between the police, between the ICE officer and Renee Good, shows that this administration has no integrity to the truth, has no honor to the truth. Even when it is in front of their own eyes what happened, they will continue to make up these fabricated stories to fit their narrative instead of the truth that is labeled and shown and recorded on video that is right in front of you. So all of this, it's like, it becomes cumbersome. It becomes, we're living in a dual reality where in one reality, this administration gets to make their own rules, gets to make their own stories, their own narratives, even though there's clear evidence of wrongdoing, of constitutional violations, of wrongs by our police force that is supposed to protect American citizens. Instead, they are murdering, tackling, destroying, and terrorizing American citizens left and right in these streets through a private militia. That's their reality, and a true reality that we could get back to if we just have this administration out of power. So this whole thing is just insane, and it is very sad, and Renee Good should not have been murdered. Renee Good should still be living, taking care of her children, caring for her wife, doing about her daily duties, not in a grave. And instead, this administration continues to put people in graves that don't deserve to be in graves. Innocent American citizens, this administration continues to put into graves. So all this to say, we also have this issue where the Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Frey, he made a statement, and I'm equating it to, we should just stay inside, not give ICE a reason to murder. And, you know, is that a logical statement? Is that a logical take? Yes. Why give ICE a reason? But at the same time, we are at a point in American history where people can't stay inside. Because now, ICE, this administration, Kristi Noem, they are violating the Constitution left and right. They are violating the Fourth Amendment left and right. And yet, we're supposed to stay inside? Well, if they're able to violate the Fourth Amendment, we see videos of ICE armies, private militia, just busting down people's doors. And the Fourth Amendment is supposed to protect that, protect us from unlawful seizures and searches. And yet we see clear videos of ICE doing this and violating without warrants. So again, it's like, how do we stay inside when they are infiltrating every part and every aspect of a private American citizen's life and right to privacy? So point blank, we have a rogue president. We knew that. And it continues to go off the guardrails more and more each day. And it will continue to ramp up, especially when it comes to our midterm elections. As you see, a lot of states have been really turning blue in regards to their votes for their elected officials, because people are starting to realize, oh, wait, this is not normal. This is not okay. We have neighbors literally being picked up and disappeared. This is not okay. So point blank, we have a rogue president. We have a rogue administrative agency in DHS, and they have no guardrails. And honestly, because of all of this, there's no prevention of terrorism, domestic terrorism that is being funded by the American government for the American people. There's no protection. So I just want to be very clear here, because the people who are protesting in these streets to not be terrorized, to not be murdered by administrative police forces, to not have their neighbors ripped away from them, to not have people disappeared, the people protesting in opposition to that are not the terrorists. The people who are terrorists are the ICE agents and soldiers and warriors and true American heroes that are going in these streets and doing those actions to terrorize American citizens. They are the terrorists, and the U.S. government is now funding, literally, a private militia terrorist group army that is domestic on American soil. So, I just want to say this also. True, straight up, okay? Stephen Miller continues. Stephen Miller, this entire regime, okay, continues to point fingers and call protesters, peaceful protesters, terrorists. Continues to call everyone else terrorists that don't align with their view of where they see and where they want America to be. But truthfully, every accusation is a confession for these people, because the only true terrorists are the ones that are calling peaceful protesters terrorists, are the ones that are sending private militia armies such as ICE into the streets to terrorize American citizens. Those are the terrorists. Those are the domestic terrorists, and the domestic terrorists are inside of our government buildings, inside of our government agencies, and inside of the most powerful seat in American history, which is the presidency. And guess what? They are infiltrated with Nazis, and we call you Nazis because you act like Nazis. Let's get that straight. So, I just want to also talk about what happens if Jonathan Ross isn't held accountable for his murder of Renee Good, okay? 6 Minnesota federal prosecutors resigned because of what has happened, because of the inadequate investigation that is not truly happening on a federal level, okay? They resigned over this legal issues. A mass exodus and a resignation from 6 Minnesota federal prosecutors should tell you there is something extremely not clean in this milk, okay? Now's not the time to resign at all. It's just not the time to resign, because then you leave room for more Nazis to take form in these government positions. It's time to stand against this regime and this wall of Nazism and destroy it, not resign and stand down. So I wanted to be very clear in regards to the resignation of these 6 prosecutors, federal prosecutors. Rather than fully examining whether the ICE agents' actions were lawful, senior Justice Department's officials pushed to investigate Good's widow, Becca Good, probing her supposed ties to activist groups that monitor immigration enforcement. So, instead of our government doing their job, doing what our criminal justice system allows it to do properly and fairly, and investigate a issue, investigate a potential crime, instead of them doing their job, investigating, getting evidence, and adjudicating whatever the verdict is, no, instead of doing their job, they are pushing it aside, they're adding to the corruption, they are defending the indefensible, and they are saying, you know what, screw the rules, we decide who can be a U.S. citizen, and we decide who can murder you. So this is where Jonathan Ross being held accountable is extremely critical and dire to our nation currently, because if he's not held accountable for his murder, guess what? That sets precedent. And when you set precedent, well then guess what? Other ICE agents and officers can go about their day and their daily terroristic duties and murder people in plain daylight. And we all know that ICE is founded off of racial bias. We all know ICE is founded out of racism. They are looking for people in the streets because guess what? You're dark-skinned. Oh, you have a Spanish accent. You're Latino. You look Latino. It's all about and predicated on racial profiling and biases. So when you allow one person to be killed, especially a white woman to be killed, and not have justice for that white woman, what does that mean for every other demographic that this rogue militia continues and will continue to target if they are not stopped and held accountable? So it sets precedent, and J.D. Vance continues to say that ICE agents have complete immunity for whatever they do in the field. It is justified. And the truth is, that is not legally sufficient, not legally sound, and there's not a legal standard for that. You can't grant immunity to every ICE agent because you want to. No, our criminal justice system has a process to understand and to review and to find evidence and to convict people such as Jonathan Ross if they are found guilty of using unreasonable, or even in his case, deadly force to murder an American citizen. So we just know that this administration has no integrity for the law, has no accountability for ICE agents. They will lie. They will tell you to not believe what you see and what you hear, and they will continue to divert your attention to some false narrative that is not true. So I want to go ahead and continue on here because that Renee Good situation, my condolences go out to her family, her kids, her wife, anyone in her life, because she should not have been murdered. Point blank, period. But let's continue on here. I want to talk about Jasmine Crockett here. So let me go ahead and pull up this video. Is it up here? Yes, it is. Perfect. Cool. So this is Jasmine Crockett, and this is her speaking on the floor. And she makes so many powerful, cohesive, truthful statements about where we are, about what this administration is doing, and how we need to combat it. So let's go take a little listen.
I've heard so much, and I have prepared remarks, and if you know anything about me, you never know where I'm going. And frankly, I don't either, because I have already cried this morning. So I'll just start here. As a civil rights lawyer, I'm incensed. As an American, I'm embarrassed. As a human, I'm infuriated. And as a member of Congress, I am immovable in my pursuit of accountability. You see, right now, people want to pretend as if this is right or left, but I'm here to tell you that this is about right or wrong. And it is very sad that the only people that are sitting here are members of the Democratic side. So I guess we just want to stand on the side of right. For once, we will be associated with being right instead of left. Because my question to any of you, and I just go down the line and ask you, is it right or wrong to arrest someone because of the color of their skin?
Yes.
Absolutely not.
Is it right or wrong to arrest somebody because of their
It's
accent?
It's wrong.
Is it right or wrong to arrest somebody because they were exercising their constitutional rights?
It is wrong.
Is it right or wrong to arrest somebody because they simply disagree with you?
It's wrong.
All right, so it seems like y'all all went to elementary school and y'all can tell right from wrong. I'm not really sure what...
And I can guarantee you, if any Republican that supports this Nazi regime of Trump was sitting on that docket right there, they would be like, yeah, it's wrong. But then again, go ahead and submit policies and, grant legislation that continues to prove that those points being wrong does not matter to them because they are liars.
What is going on with ICE right now? But I can tell you, and as we heard earlier, this is pure racism. I don't know why we want to tinker around with it and pretend as if it's something other than what it is. I like to call a thing a thing. And he has told us time and time again who he was when he talked about certain people being from certain shithole countries. Those are his words. The only reason I'm cussing in this moment. When he said things like they are eating the cats and dogs. We knew exactly what we were getting, and some people are saying, I don't know how we got here, but I do. Because we know that dehumanizing, I believe that you said something to the effect of cruelty and humiliation are the point. That's what you said, Miss Patty. Because when we look at other places, say places that did things like, go door to door, looking for people, as they had to hide out, say in an attic. Does that sound familiar to anybody?
Does it sound familiar? We learned this in school. People with proper educations in school learned about the Holocaust, learned about how family and friends had to hide their family and friends in attics and cellars to hide them from this private army militia called the Nazis. Hitler. Come on, we've learned this.
Or the images that I have seen of people being attacked by law enforcement, whether we're talking about dogs or fire hoses, it seems very reminiscent of something that we have seen before in this.
Very reminiscent of a recent history within the last 60 years of American riots breaking out in protest for civil rights. Very reminiscent when you learn about the history books of Martin Luther King, when you learn about Black history, when you learn about Malcolm X. This is all things that we have recently truly learned about in schools, okay? When we were in school, and yet we're ignoring it like it's not happening right now. Like we're not even the beginning stages. We are in the thick of an authoritarian takeover that is looking to try and rip away people's civil rights. That is what we are up against currently right now, and they have the power.
This country. And then people get offended and try to say I'm too Black, but the reality is that y'all never let the fact that I am Black go.
And we'll get into that one with Bowen Yang and Matt Rogers and their comments.
I'm going to be clear about one thing. I know my good Black history. And so when I look and I say, and I will say it loud and proud because the DH secretary had a few choice words for me, but this looks like modern day slave patrols. And they have been sanctioned by this Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever thought we would live in a country that progress looks like having a Supreme Court that says, yes, it is okay to look at somebody or to listen to their accent and give permission to grab them. The last time that I checked, ICE is only supposed to be doing immigration enforcement. And right now we have a record number of U.S. citizens that have not only been arrested, but as we saw with Renee, that have been killed, that have been maimed, that have been bullied, that have been brutalized, that have been unlawfully arrested. Y'all, we are living with an abuser right now.
And that comment is true. We are living with an abuser. And look, I think every logical human being can understand immigration reform. Every logical American can sit here and say people need to come into this country legally, right? But there also needs to be a path to citizenship for people who do not come here traditionally and legally. People who are fleeing, people who are refugees, okay? We can all fully agree with that. But here's the issue, is that we saw that what Trump was going to do when he was in office for a second term was not use ICE to properly manage immigration. We saw, and he said in his own terms and eyes, through his own lips, that he wants his own private militia to go after his government officials, his political opponents, destroy America's fabric, and destroy the immigrants in this country and remove them.
That is who Trump and his administration is. And frankly, I think we all have a little bit of PTSD. But if you know anything about a domestic abuser, the one thing about them that you need to know is that they are some of the biggest cowards that you will ever find. What they can't stand is when you actually fight back.
And here's what I want to say about that. You know why Donald Trump is this domestic abuser to the house that is known, the most powerful house that is known as America? He's a domestic abuser because he's trying to hide something. And that's another fact about abusers. They continue trying to hide their cowardice behind these strong-willed, big dick actions. But the truth is, they're hiding an integral secret that people need to know about. And in this case, Donald Trump's secret is none other than those Epstein files. And that is the truth. This is why he's ramping up this private militia. This is why he's banking on having citizens and protesters in the streets and causing havoc and terrorizing them. He wants this chaos so he can enact martial law. So that way these Epstein files never seek the light of day. So he can never be held accountable for the crimes that he has committed against children and women and boys. So she's right. We're living with an abuser, and it's classic abuse case. He continues to abuse the American citizens to hide what he has done wrong, to hide his indiscretions, and it's the truth. So I think Jasmine Crockett is 100% right here. I think this whole statement, she is such an eloquent speaker. She is strong. She has conviction. She has purpose, and I think she would be phenomenal for the U.S. Senate in Texas. And this is where I want to transfer over here, because Bowen Yang and Matt Rogers, who are, I believe, both comedians. I know Bowen Yang is on Saturday Night Live, or he recently just actually left Saturday Night Live. And then Matt Rogers, I guess he's a comedian. I don't really know much about him. I've seen him in my social media algorithms, just don't really know him too much. But they had the gall and nerve to say that Jasmine Crockett, you shouldn't waste your money on her. You shouldn't contribute to her campaign for the Senate in Texas because she will lose. And I had major problems with this. And not because of their words, but because of the underlying ignorance and the underlying slight racism that exists in their statements. Let's go ahead and take a look. Nothing against Tyler Rico, okay? Nothing against him. But what Matt Rogers is saying right now and what Bowen Yang is co-signing is indiscriminatory racism. And that is true. Necessarily go with the energy, but go with the populace. I get it. I get it how that's the common sense trajectory that one would take. Especially Matt Rogers. But here's my problems with Matt Rogers' comments, and here's my problem with Bowen Yang co-signing these comments, is it's about electability, it's about putting Jasmine Crockett in a box, and it's literally about the clarity of leadership, not liability here. And as a gay man that Matt Rogers is, he should understand what his words are doing and how he is racially boxing Jasmine Crockett in under a label and saying we can't vote for her because she is a black woman with a voice. And that's what I got from his comments. She's not going to win because she's a black woman in Texas. So don't put your coins into her basket. Let's find someone that is more relatable, that is more whitewashed, that can look at the community and say, I can be you and you can be me. So Bowen's comments on electability, it's just truly bias dressed up as strategy, and it's ignorance on his part for even mentioning these words out of his mouth that place Jasmine Crockett in a labeled box as the loud, boisterous black woman because she's defined. Like, explain what defined means. Because you didn't explain defined in your comments here, but explain what defined means. I know what it means. Loud black woman who has a voice, who has trajectory, who has power, who understands life, who understands politics, you know? I know what he meant. So him saying Jasmine Crockett is too defined, it literally just placed her in the box of the loud black woman who speaks with clarity and conviction, and we're just not ready for that. Okay? And then the whole defined thing, I mean, let's talk about it. He mentioned Taylor Rico, his name is. I don't know much about him, but it's funny how he names someone who is undefined a white man. because it's closeness to proximity to power. Because whiteness, people can relate to. Jasmine Crockett being a black woman who's loud with a voice, no one can relate to. So it's the ignorance, it's the underlying defined bias that as a gay man, he should understand. And he just doesn't. It's completely gone over his head with these comments, and he doesn't understand it. So black women technically and traditionally don't get the luxury of being undefined, because as soon as most black women enter workspaces, most black women enter politics like Jasmine Crockett, they are immediately defined as the loud, boisterous black woman who we just aren't going to listen to. So Jasmine Crockett never had the opportunity to be undefined, because she was defined the second she stepped into politics. She was defined the second she stepped out against Donald Trump. She never had the opportunity to define herself. You know, even though when she does talk, you can understand where she stands, she never had the opportunity to define herself, because as she said, you guys never let her forget that she's a black woman. So I also wanted to talk about in regards to definedness. Jasmine Crockett is clear on her platform. Jasmine Crockett is clear that she respects the Constitution. Jasmine Crockett is clear in her views. Jasmine Crockett is clear in her civil rights. Jasmine Crockett is clear in her education. I would want to vote for someone that has clarity, that clearly states what their views are, versus someone who is undefined and ambiguous and has room to grow. No, I don't want you to have room to grow if you're leading this country. I want you to know not even this country, but seated in a Senate seat. Like, I want to know that you have the best values at heart for communities that look like you and don't look like you. I don't want someone that is ambiguous in these Senate seats. I don't want someone who is undefined. I don't want someone who can make their mark when they're in the seat. I want to know who's in the seat when I vote for that person. So wanting an undefined candidate, it really just prioritizes the comfort over the actual progress that our country deserves. So that's one of the things that truly pissed me off about these Bowen Yang and Matt Rogers comments. And Bowen Yang, to sit there and co-sign this without fighting back as a minority in the United States, as an Asian American, I believe he is. Am I racially profiling now? I don't know. But he looks Asian. But as an Asian American, potentially, or just a minority in the United States, for him to sit there and not push back on his friend and say, well, you know what? If you really think about it, the comments that you're making are a little bit insensitive, a little bit racially profiling and boxing to tell a black woman she's already defined, so she's not going to win a seat, she's not going to win an election. For him to sit there, for Bowen Yang to sit there as a minority and not give his 2 cents because he wants his proximity to whiteness to be silent enough so that he can slide in and fit in, that says it all. Says it all. Anyway, I'm just sick and tired of being sick and tired. We continue to have this administration that is running completely rogue. We have a president who is supported by complete Nazism in thought, process, and legislation. We have administration agencies that are running their own private militia to terrorize American citizens domestically, from harassment to murder. And I'm sick and tired of the hypocrisy, the double standards, the criminal behavior that is treated as saviors, and the innocent people that are literally suffering and being defined as criminals illegally. and unconstitutionally. So I'm sick and tired of it all. And honestly, I'm sick and tired of Trump and what he's done in his first year of his second term of presidency. If his first term wasn't enough, his second term and just the 12 months that we've had him in that seat has been way worse than just his first term's entirety. And I made a quick list, okay? I made a very quick list of Trump's actions over the year. And I want you to tell me, honestly, if any other president engaged in these types of actions that threaten American security, that threaten state security, that threaten political officials and opponents, okay, would you say the same? And would you still defend them, okay? If Barack Obama did these things, tell me, would you still support him? Would you vote for him? I already know the answer, but here we go. Trump has illegally restricted congressional money to states. Trump has denied funding to states who voted against him in elections and who continue to vote against him in elections. Trump has attacked media, tried to revoke media rights from news outlets, and has tried to subsidize and subdue media outlets like the New York Times and sue them, okay? Trump has withheld funding from universities that don't teach his view and his administration's view of what the world is, was, and should be. Basically, whitewashing. And if you don't whitewash your content, if you don't whitewash your history and make white people look like the saviors when they were truly the villains throughout the American history, okay? Well, then we're going to withhold that funding from you. Not only that, he's renaming federal buildings after himself. He's investigating political opponents through his own private investigations that is funded through American taxpayer dollars. He's also pressing to redraw congressional maps so that way in future elections there is no way that there is an actual unanimously adjourned election that will actually view and take view from the American people. He has completely destabilized the social structure of America. He has had divisive rhetoric. Trump is also a national security risk with how he continues to cozy up with dictators, cozy up and oppose our allies, cozy up and try and take over sovereign nations like Venezuela for their oil or Greenland because it's a national security risk. And most of all, I mean, this man can be blackmailed because he's in those Epstein files. So you want to talk about national security risk? Greenland and having Greenland isn't a matter of national security risk. What's truly a national security risk, Donald Trump, is the fact that you can be blackmailed for your actions in those Epstein files. So the true and only national security risk here is you, Donald Trump. And you need to be removed from office. You need to be impeached and removed. Anyway, guys, this is the end of the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, guess what you guys can do? You guys can go ahead and hit that follow button and you can subscribe right here on YouTube because this is my predominant platform where all my new information and content comes out regularly too. So we are back. It's a new year, and we're going to continue hounding down, discussing, dissecting, and understanding what this administration continues to do and how it's unconstitutional and how they are illegally violating American citizens' rights that is protected under law and Constitution. Anyway, hit that subscribe button, and I will be back on the next episode of the Civil Point Podcast. I'm your host, Ariana. Have a good night.